So, Pete, you went from Wally Heider to Sunset Sound, then you went to Capitol Records, and then you went to the Sony scoring stage, then you went to Universal Mastering, and now you're at AfterMaster. How did these transitions happen? That's a wide diversity of moving through audio engineering.
Well, I wish I could say that it was, completely thought out and everything. But, as I had mentioned earlier, like when I left Boston, I had amassed, like a few sort of allied skills. There's the music, there's the technical, there's the recording. And for example, when I left, when I was at Wally Heider's, I was really mostly an assistant. And then the technical department was dying on the vine there, so I ended up, I got a raise and I started doing the technical shit there. And then when I went to Sunset, that's all I did. I was a tech. And then when I went to Capitol, I started as a tech, and then very quickly on, actually at my interview with the guy who was the director of the recording department, Charles Camelli at the time, he said, "Well, do you want to actually engineer recording sessions?" Which of course was exactly what I wanted to do. But of course I thought I had to fib and say, "Oh no, I'm thinking that they're not going to want to hire somebody to do job A who really lusts after doing job B and won't be happy in a very short time." So I said, "Well, no, I'm good, just being a tech." Well, we really like it when our technical engineers can, also do sessions. "Oh, well, you can't read my writing." I said, "Well, but it's typed, Pete." But so I actually I only did the tech stuff there at Capitol for 6 weeks or something before I was recognized that I was very valuable, with my musical background, and I got along great with musicians because of that. That I found myself doing sessions like right away, and Capitol was one of those unique places, still is, where they have staff engineers who can either, if you're the client, you bring in your own first engineer, you get an extraordinarily overqualified assistant to run your day. And if you don't bring a first engineer, this guy not only knows where all the bodies are buried, but he's worked on, umpteen high quality records in probably your style of music too. So he knows exactly what is appropriate for what you're doing. It was just an amazing place to work, really, at the time. Probably still is. I don't hang out there that much anymore.
And then you went to Sony scoring from Capitol?
And then I got there were some management issues there at Capitol near the end of my stay, and a number of people were leaving, and I got an opportunity. I got lured over to Sony Pictures. Again, just doing music recording on the scoring stage, though, which is like, it's a giant one-ring circus. It's the same kind of thing every day, but it's like 100-piece band every day. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of fun, too, if the people are right. I might point out that if the director is happy with his movie, it is so much fun to do the scoring. If the director is really unsure and wants the music to save the picture, you're in for a world of hurt. Because, as people may not know, the music, the scoring happens at the very end when all the editing is done, the reels are locked down, because it's really expensive to record an orchestra. 100-piece band, with the stage and the crew and everything. And I'm talking about a 10-to-1, a 2-to-5, a 7-to-10. That's like $250,000 a day.
Yeah.
Right? It's probably more than that. When I was there, that was 15 years ago. That figure. So it's very possibly significantly more now. So obviously you don't do it till everything else is set, and that's the only thing you have to focus on. But they're already showing the trailer in the theaters. The movie's going to be out in like 10 days. You haven't started recording the freaking music, much less mixing it, right? So there's a lot of pressure. And I didn't particularly, that wasn't my element. I like music that stood for itself, not was subservient to picture. And my next stop was Universal Mastering, where I really didn't have any experience or draw really to mastering. The reason I wanted to go over there is the union I had been in at Sony was, strangely enough, the Motion Picture Editors Guild. Post-production audio was all the stuff of the Motion Picture Editors Guild. And we had a pretty darn good contract over there. And mostly what I was looking forward to when I started at Universal, there was a gap of several months between the two. And my independent work was okay. But I was looking for somebody else to pay the damn health insurance again, if you can get my drift. And the fact that Universal Mastering was also in the same union meant that I could continue building my hours in that and get my health insurance for my wife and I back.
But here's a question that many people are interested in. The transition from going from tracking and mixing music in a recording studio or in a scoring stage or at Wally Heider's and in trucks, that transition from music recording and tracking and mixing to mastering, what was that like? You went to Universal and you were doing mastering, or you went to Universal and you started in mixing? I was
initially hired to do mixing. They were going to build a 5.1 room. This is 2003 when 5.1 as a music-only medium was actually being entertained, DVD A and SACD. I mean, there was some excitement about high-quality audio for a moment, and now we've succumbed to the world of MP3s and M4As and, less than stellar stuff. So the reason I went there was they were going to allow me to mix 5.1 of all this back catalog stuff. It would have been a ball. And then they decided they didn't want to spend the money.
But then at some point, you moved into, I remember you had a transition into mastering.
Yeah.
And you were doing part mixing, part mastering, and then you moved fully into mastering. How did that transition occur?
Well, actually, was looking around for something fun to do other than just like doing production work, which was basically sitting, listening to masters that were on their way to be manufactured, listening for clicks and pops and, technical anomalies. There was only one mastering engineer there at the time at Universal Mastering. So obviously they weren't that crazy busy, but I wanted to learn something that would be, musically engaging and another feather in my cap, another skill set that, looking at the dearth and the death of all the recording studios here in town, being a recording engineer was looking less and less, promising as a career and, as a livelihood, shall we say.
Sure.
But there's always going to be room for mastering, for people to try to, like I used to say, fix it in the mix. Well, now it's become fix it in the mastering.
That's true.
Because people are mixing in less than stellar rooms or, home studios or bedrooms or wherever the heck it is. And, with the technology of the computer, you think you can, and you can make good sounding things. But we'll get to this very important thing in a minute about the acoustics, how they can really take you down a gilded path where you think you got something and you really do not.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, I bet you have. I mean, engineering is supposed to be problem solving, and you say, I think I got this. Quite often it's got you, because you make the wrong decision because of how you're hearing things. So at any rate, at Universal, I started learning the craft, and the guy who was our boss at the time, his attitude was, mixers make terrible mastering engineers. Maybe. maybe in your experience, but having a musical background and knowing not only how to interact with clients, because working in the studio, a lot of it is the care and feeding of relationships with your clients, and it continues to throughout every step of the way. But mastering, it obviously is what I fell into there, and I did it there for about 13 years. And I still did some mixing. There was probably a couple of years of Guitar Hero and Rock Band where I finally did do that which they hired me to do. But both of those games were just stereo. So I could do that in the room that I had equipped for mastering. So that really, they never had to wish that they had done what they said they were going to do when they hired me in building a 5.1 mix room. And the same thing with a 5.1 mastering room. You'd think that, Universal would have, had deep pockets and, wanted to go full on into any technological area that had excellence attached to it. But the big companies don't necessarily need or want to do that. Board members, oops. Shareholders, oops.
Yeah.